All right, and here we are, folks. The moment we've all been waiting for, the best of five finals from the 2023 Scrabble Players Championship, brought to you by NASPA from Las Vegas, Nevada. Once again, I am Matt Canik here with commentary, and today we are bringing in none other than the great Jared Cappel. Jared, how are you doing today?
I'm doing so well, Matt. Thank you for having me. When I had to drop out of this tournament, I had so many people reach out to me to ask me to commentate, including Art, Judy, yourself, and our producer here, Christian K. So I want to thank you all for inviting me into this broadcast. I think it's going to be a super exciting finals. We have such a great matchup between our two players here, Josh Sokol and Joey Mallick.
Yeah, and Jared, hailing from Toronto, you're rather familiar with both of these players, as Joey from the Northeast United States and Josh from Montreal. Have you played these players before? And if so, what do you know about their strategies and styles?
I've never actually played Joey, but I have met him. I've played Josh many times, both online. Actually, I played Joey online, but I've played Josh many times in person. What I would say is that Joey is a very consistent player. He has really strong word knowledge. He doesn't make too many mistakes. And he's just never going to sort of make that blunder that's really going to cost him. Whereas Josh, a much more creative player, can come up with these brilliant sequences, but maybe sometimes he can get in trouble, like missing a high probability bingo. I know he's really studied in the last year, trying to brush up any holes in his word knowledge, and it's really paid off. He's been winning tournament after tournament.
Yeah, Josh has been on an exceptionally hot streak over the past 6 or so months, and this would be an amazing way for him to cap that run off with the victory here at the Scrabble Players Championship. This tournament, for those unfamiliar with it, used to be named the North American Scrabble Championship, and before that, the National Scrabble Championship. So, this effectively serving as the title of best player in North America with the victory here. That'd be a fantastic way for Josh to cap this off. He's never won a tournament with these stakes before, and Joey Mallick, despite being an expert level player, top expert level player for about 20 years now, is yet to win a national championship himself, although he's been very close on a number of occasions. So we will have a first time champion at this tournament. The question is who? Young upstart Josh Sokol or the established long standing grandmaster Joey Mallick? 5 games to decide the winner. The first player to 3 wins here will be our champion. Josh will be going first simply because he comes in with the better record. So Josh getting to go first in games 1, 3, and if necessary 5, with Joey to go first in games 2 and 4. And with that, Josh is drawing his first tile. And what a better way to start than a blank on the first draw? Has to feel a little bit like fate for Josh as he pulls AEIN
Oh
I
my
blank
God, the second blank
blank.
too.
Wow. So could not ask for a better opening draw than that if you're Josh. 2 blanks on the first turn. He'll be bingoing for 62 for sure. I do wonder how much time he'll spend trying to optimize this rack, come up with the best or coolest or most interesting bingo versus just kind of picking one of the 62-point options. Jared, anything standing out to you as a good option? What are you looking to do with these 2 blanks?
I want to do a few things. One of them is not put a vowel beneath or above a scoring square, so you just don't want to give easy overlaps. The other thing you want to make sure is not slotting good letters like the E into the double double lane or to the triple lane. That'll just give a lot of good plays back if your opponent has good tiles. The other thing you want to do is limit the number of tiles you're giving to your opponent. So Joey will have an A, E, I, and N to play through no matter what. But if Josh is able to make any of those tiles duplicated, it would just be one fewer tile for Joey to play through and potentially hit a bingo.
Yeah, every additional letter you put out as a floater increases the odds that your opponent bingos, and especially some of the juicier letters, S's, R's, and E's, you want to avoid stringing out. So if I'm Josh, I don't want to make one of those blanks something nice like an R or a T, if I can at all help it. And I've done a little of my own internal analysis on it's rather crude, but I made a double power index. What letter do you not want to string between two double word squares on the first turn to avoid getting hit with a double back? And I actually found from my crude analysis that the most dangerous tile, contrary to common thought, is not an E, but actually an I. So if I'm Josh, I'm looking to avoid putting an I there if I can help it. And it looks like he's maybe going with aniline, Aniline would be my guess. Maybe asinine here. We'll have to confirm with our
Could
crew on the
also
ground.
be amidine, maybe. Aniline would be nice. It would give that N where there's already an N on the board. The other thing he wants to consider here is any word he plays, he has to be 100% of the hooks. There's no reason to put down a word where you're not sure if it takes an S, a D, if it doesn't take any hooks. So we'll get our producer, Christian K., who's been doing such a great job with this broadcast, to let us know what the blanks have been designated
And he's
as we look
confirmed it is NL.
at
Aniline
now.
is the play. N and L are the blanks.
So he really accomplished all those things that we said that he should. And before we have a chance to look at Joey's rack, he's going to make a very strong play here of knight, and it holds QU, which has pretty nice synergy itself.
Yeah, the Q, the worst tile in the game, according to everybody. And yet, if there's anything you want to do with it, you can hold a U. That takes it from the worst tile in the game to roughly neutral. As Josh, again, going to bingo this game. He's drawn into Painted, which does not play, but he'll have two playable bingos here. Patinaed, Patinaed, and Pinnated through the N. Patinaed, the highest scoring bingo. He can also play the 7 Patined, Patined, alongside aniline. I'm not sure which one he's going to play here. I'm partial to Patinaed through the A, extending almost all the way to the right side of the board. But Jared, do you have thoughts between Patinaed and Patined for Josh to help him win this game?
I think they're all pretty close, so I'm with you. I think I would just like taking the points here. I think maybe Patined, if that's pronounced properly, shuts the board maybe a touch more, although where he's playing patinaed here, it's really only floating out an E and a D, and it also takes out the double to at least some extent, unless there's a disconnected double. So I think this looks like a really nice placement and a really nice play. And I also like that he didn't use too much clock here.
Yeah, so a bingo and a bango for Josh to begin these games, both rather pedestrian finds, but if you're Josh, you will absolutely take that start to this best of 5 finals. And Joey holding on to QU, and it looks like out of this turn, he may have to hold QU yet again, as he doesn't have many candidate plays that make use of that tile. The only effective way to play the Q would be Feek FIQUE through the I and aniline for 17. I expect to see him play on top of Josh's bingo. FEM seems like a very standard play here, forming FE and ED for 29. Jared, what do you think? Do we play the Q or do we keep things tight and hold it for a second turn here?
We do not play the Q. Sometimes you want to get the Q off your rack, but when you have a U, it's a lot stronger. And on this board, with the floating I and E of aniline, the Q is really not so bad. Them scores really nicely. You hold QUED, which is pretty nicely balanced. There's no reason to make the Q play here, so I really hope we see Fem come down as he sets up Feek. So I'm not a fan of that play. What about you, Matt?
I hate it. Yeah, no, I definitely think we want to hold the Q a second turn. We do know that Joey tends to skew more towards a bingo-oriented player than maybe some of the other players in the field. He really does seem to like holding onto leaves that will allow him to bingo next turn. And getting rid of the Q would be a more effective way to get to a bingo next turn. But just 17 points with a pedestrian leave of DEM. I think you play Fem, you take your points, and that's what Joey electing to do here. I agree with this decision.
Yeah, great decision. This is clearly the play, I think. Josh has a lot of tiles he can score with, but that UWW combination on the end of his rack sure is ugly.
Yeah. I want to chat to play a game today. What does UWW feel like when you draw it? Does it feel like opening up a dumpster that's had fermenting garbage for several days? Does it feel like having to use the dirty bathroom at a rural town gas station? Let's crowdsource what we feel about UWW together as Josh looking to unload some of this stuff. I see WHEW, a nice board closing play through the E and aniline. I also see WAWS pluralizing aniline. Both of those will help Josh shut this board down, although Waz giving up big plays to the unseen Z, and that is exactly what Joey has on his rack. So Josh making a big decision here, and it's going to backfire hard on him.
Yeah, I like the decision to get rid of the W's, and I don't even mind burning the S here, but the play you suggested of Haw, actually, Haw would leave still UW, so I understand why he went with Was. People get really attached to those S's, but Josh has a big lead here early. There's 3 more S's in the bag. He wants to get rid of those W's. It might seem like a counterintuitive play, but it actually makes a lot of sense, I think.
And Joey with many scoring options. The obvious ZEE scores 68, but when you see a good play, find a better one. And Joey can play Quired underneath for 60, holding on to the Z. He will knock out the ZA spot, but he can set it up on the back end with ADZ. He can also pull Z and AM at the top with any A draw. ZE, ZO not valid in NWL play, but ZA still playing on top. He's quite likely to pick up an A after playing 6 tiles. So, Jared, would you play the Z bomb here, or would you drop Quired?
I would drop Quired. Like you said, because of that spot to play Z and Za, the Z has a lot of strength on this board. So I would not be in a rush to play it. Some players can get too attached to QU balanced leaves. Quired just scores so nicely, and you never know if you're going to have a good spot for the Q going forward. So I love the decision to play Quired here.
Chat pointing out perhaps it was best actually to just play Choir without putting the D on the end. It's 7 fewer points, but it holds the Z spot, so you have 2 big places to cash in the Z, and perhaps maybe Joey rushing that turn a little bit, as the more I look at that, the more that has to be the right idea. Any E draw lets you play underneath, any A draw lets you play on the top part of the board. I think Quired the best play here. So when you find a good play, ZEE, find a better one in Quired. When you find a better one, spend a little more time. I think a missed opportunity here for Joey. We'll see if it comes back to bite him, as Josh's rack and his next play likely indicative of how he feels. Josh can't do anything here but UGH, ugh, as he gets hit for 60 points. Ugh fitting nicely between Patanud and Knight. NUT, AG, and FEH. 32 points, cleans up this rack better than most of his other options. He's got to spot this play. No doubt the best play in my eyes. And yet I think he's missing it here.
Yeah, that's the second miss in a row. Like you, we both didn't consider Choir. Good point on the chat there. Please keep sending your comments. If you have any questions, just let us know. Josh does have an ugly rack. He really needed to find ugh there, but one nice thing about his rack is he has a U. So if he's able to draw an A here, he'll have quag next turn. Definitely a consideration. And he draws another U. You know, he's like, I already kept one. I didn't need another one.
And yet drawing that U ensures he's got the last 2. Joey very unlikely to play from the Q, barring a play like QADI, QAID, or QATS. So Josh can feel good that that spot will likely stay available. And Joey has another interesting decision. ZA fits certainly on top. Z and AM is 52, but he can also play COME, C-O-M-E, in that same spot Josh just missed UG, making ICH, NOT, AM, and FEE for 40. COME would also retain the Z, so he can play ZA next turn. But ZA also holding COME, so he can play COME next turn. I'm not sure what the right move there, but he's going to hold a lot of points next turn with either one of those plays. Joey electing to go with the ZA, and we'll see if he notices and plays COM next turn, or if he draws something better. CEIMOOE, yeah, that's not going to be better.
Yeah, we're seeing both players miss that spot. It's definitely a difficult spot to see between Patina and Knight. You don't really think about putting a C between an I and an H, just like you might not see the ugh spot for Josh, but this is the sort of play that if you want to be the national champion, you're going to have to make. So we have seen a couple misses already, but we've also seen some really nice plays as Josh looks to, maybe now he's playing ugh. He has it set up on the left side of his rack.
And do you put the S at the end of ugh? Ugh itself is
Yeah.
32, but with the S, it does take an S, and that makes it 48. I do think this is a great choice here by Josh. Maybe not seeing it last turn, or perhaps he saw it and forewent it. Chat also pointing out FUD sets up his H as ED takes a back H. So maybe Josh, deciding to be patient, holds those tiles and sees if he can cash in more for the H. He passes up on Squeg here, but that's got to be correct. He holds the last U. That Q is still his to use, and scores 48 points now. So clever stuff from Josh as we turn back over to Joey, whose play of come was blocked. CEEIMOO now, as Joey picking up two more vowels after his two-tile play.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe it wasn't a miss by Josh, but I love that idea of of burning the S there. The S isn't too valuable in this board. It could hook add to start a bingo, and obviously it could bingo through the U or the I, for example, but generally it's not so important to him. We could also see Josh do something with fireworks, something like oblique, hanging a bit dangerously over that triple word score, but he'll probably have something safer. First over to Joey here. He's going to have to find a way to get rid of some vowels as he is hanging on to 5 at the moment.
Yeah, he's got good options to do so. I think one obvious play is Cooee, Cooee, on top of Waz, making EWE. That's 15 points. He also has options to score very well now. He could just play on top of Waz something like OM or MEED to the ED. Those would score 28 or 30 points. Co-ed also playing in the same spot. But one more cool option to get rid of a lot of vowels right now is opine through the disconnected PN alongside anilines. That would only score 12, but clear up the vowels a little bit better. So does Joey score 30 or 32 right now, but hold 4 vowels and a consonant with a play like co-ed or mead? It looks like that is what he's going to like to do. This EEIMO leave, though, is going to need at least one, probably 2 consonants to give Joey good plays next turn, but he will score now 30 points as Josh has a decision to make. Oblique plays through the Q. Does Josh know what letters you can put behind it? Oblique looks like potentially it might take a D, R, or S. Of course, oblique, the muscle that every baseball player ever seems to strain as soon as I add them in fantasy baseball. The S hook for sure, but does it take an R? Does it take a D? Do we need that kind of content on the internet? Does Josh need that kind of variance on a game where he's in the driver's seat right now? Jared, if you were Josh, would you play oblique or would you play something more conservative like quit?
I would be conservative because I'm not confident on those hooks, and I know that Joey would be much more likely to know the hooks than me. If I were playing against a different opponent, I might be more aggressive. To me, the S, obviously, like you said, it's part of your abdominal muscles. The D makes sense to me. The R is a bit of a stretch to me, but I wouldn't be 100% on the D or the R, so I would be afraid and I'd have to play quit. And those sort of fears really cost you over the course of a tournament.
Yeah, so oblique scoring 15 more for Josh there. A quick Quackle simulation shows on average, Joey is going to score 22 more next turn after Josh netting just 15 more, but then Josh to score about 12 more on average after oblique. So Quackle very much a fan of the play of oblique in terms of scoring and getting ahead, but actually says quit helps him retain his lead more in the long run. Definitely an interesting decision for Josh, but nobody, I think, will blame him playing quit, especially if he's even reasonably unsure of one of the hooks. Oblique does take a D and an S in this lexicon, and those are the only 2 hooks. But Josh, makes a very reasonable play here, quit, although oblique would have been very fun for everybody watching at home. We'll switch over to Joey now, who does pick up a sort of consonant in the Y and another vowel into that leave. So AEEIMOY, and he'll have the nice play of IE, AIYEE, a great word every Scrabbler needs to know to work out of these mucky racks. He'll have some other options as well. I don't think IE actually fits for anything good. It only plays through the I inquired, but impone plays through the disconnected OP. Opine, still an option, or he can cash in more points now with Mayo and OK on top of Knight. Jared, how would you play out of this rack?
Um, I wouldn't do what he's doing here with I liked impone maybe as the option there. I think one of the things to remember is that when there are two blanks that he'd have to find to make the parallel play to, they're very hard to see and consider. Josh is going to waste no time here. He gets bloodier down. That's a big bingo for him. He already had the lead. Having the lead let him play conservatively with quit. If the scores were reversed, I definitely could have seen oblique coming down. So Joey's been in vowel trouble for a few turns. I would have even rather seen maybe IE instead of I, just to get rid of one more vowel. You can see he's still in vowel trouble. He has 5 of them. So IE didn't score all that much, but either did I. But thankfully for Joey, he gets hit with a bingo, but he's going to score back with nearly a bingo score himself, playing the French word against the French-Canadian je.
Yeah, that J, a huge pull for Joey, and this pull also unfortunate for Josh. Josh has out bingoed Joey now 3-0 in this game, and yet Joey only down about 70 points, showing the importance of those intermediate plays. Joey cashing the J, the Q, and the Z for big points already this turn. Josh now, I think the very straightforward play of Oily needs to come down here. He could also consider Pily, P-I-L-Y. It is 6 more points, but A-E-I-O as a leave could yield a lot of trouble for him. Looking at the unseen pool to Josh, you got to think about vowel-consonant ratio. There are 13 vowels and 22 consonants, but I don't think that's quite consonant-heavy enough to justify 4 vowels here. I like this play of Oily. I don't think there's anything else to do here. Jared, do you agree?
Oh yeah, that one was easy. And like you would score more with Piley now, but you're holding on to the P, which will help you score more going forward. And for Joey right now, I'm a bit concerned about his chances because both blanks are gone, 2 S's are gone, the QZJ are gone. So he's gonna really need to come down to a natural bingo because there's not too many good tiles left in that bag except for the X and 2 of the S's to really help his chances.
Yeah, time is running out for Joey. Josh's play of Oily putting him ahead 379 to 274. And Joey needs to get this board open. He does have one bingo line underneath EYE, and perhaps he could have a wonderful fit, but he'd need a bingo ending likely in an O or a U to play on top of Patinud, coming down or through the O in Oily. It's tough to get bingos down aside from that one spot. So if I'm Joey, a Boma is a nice play, a great equity play, but this builds a wall on a board where you may need 2 bingos to catch up. Not sure how I feel. I think I would have looked for other options to open this board. A play like a Timpana through the disconnected P in, or a play like Riata from the R and Bloodier. I think maybe better options to give him more control of this board later on.
Yeah, Cade to cadet. Anytime a hook changes the pronunciation of the word, it can be a bit difficult to see. Equity-wise, those plays are all inferior, and someone like Joey, who really likes to bingo, can get a bit caught in the equity trap. Equity is not always the best decision. He really needed to find a way to open up more of the board, and instead, he shut more of the board. So I don't see his path to victory very easily here. He can definitely open the board by dropping a couple vowels above patina, for example. Like he could have even played AA last turn above the T and the I just to get a new lane there. And also keep the Y lane of Oily. There are a lot of words that end in Y. So I think that was a big lane that I really didn't like to see him take out.
One great option pointed out by Cesar in chat for Joey last turn, Moan, M-O-A-N, to the first blank in aniline, turning P blank N to P-A-N. That would set up S's, and while Joey doesn't have it, that's another really great way he could have opened this board. So that's a turn. I think Joey's chances to win very slim now. That is a turn I think Joey would like to have back as he goes back and reviews this game. Josh, though, needs to think of what he wants to do. The worst thing you can do with the lead, in my opinion, is get caught up fishing and not play a bingo. So he has BAM, just plunking the tile B in the top right corner for 21. He also has the wonderful B Knight, BE, in front of KNIGT for 30. Could also drop the P here, or maybe look to play a little bit longer. But Josh certainly does not want to open this board, wants to score some points and keep pressure on Joey. and wants to keep a reasonable lead. We'll get the unseen pool now. 21 tiles in the bag, 28 unseen for Josh. And you know he's looking at this pool. It looks quite bingo prone. I think the letters in retains there are straight up there twice, or senorita twice in this bag. So very, very bingo prone pool from Josh's perspective. And yet we know that Joey, not even close.
Yeah, and that's the sort of thing Joey needs to get back in the game are those good tiles. So the play that Moan that Cesar suggested is just so brilliant, just setting up an S hook, even if you don't have it yet. When you're behind, you have to set up these lanes that you're going to hope you have to draw, even if you don't necessarily have the tiles yet. So it's going to be a tough stretch here for Joey to try and get back in this game. But I like what Josh is doing here, using a bit more clock. We've seen these suggestions come from the chat where maybe if players had taken a bit more time, they might have found it. Both players still have quite a lot of clock yet left. So a couple of those past turns, maybe it would have been advisable just to use a couple more minutes.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. But Josh, likely with these one-tile fishes, what all top players do is look at every possible one-tile draw and calculate the percentage that they're going to hit. So Josh, choosing to play between the P or the B, likely feels that this leave is going to hit more. I'm not going to take the time right now and run through every option, but Josh will draw into unplayable bingos of caliber or caliber, depending on the spelling. ER or RE, both are valid. And Joey, compelled to open this board, could give him a spot, but with the rack this bad, I think we might actually just see Joey exchange in this situation. What do you think is going to happen here, Jared?
Yeah, it's hard to exchange when you're down by 104 points. You know your opponent's going to score on the next turn, and then you're going to be down 2 full bingos, and there's just not very many tiles left in the bag to get 2 bingos, especially because Josh is going to score on another turn as well. So he'd really love a way to score. A play like Moan, if it was still there, would be so ideal. I'd still be looking, is there anything that ends in OIN, OEN, OAN? That spot to set up an S hook seems like such a great idea. If not, he's going to have to find a way, I think, to open up either the top of the board or the right side of the board, but I'm not seeing a clear way to do it.
Yeah, I see 4 unplayed R's, so Joey could draw into a play like Roan, ROAN, to that N. But, now we're thinking 2 turns in advance. We've got Val trouble. We need to score. We need to continue trying to keep this board dynamic. There's a lot for Joey to think about. I wonder if this play of Riot is the right thing to do. You have to score a little bit now and just kind of pray that you draw 3 consonants. And that's actually a good possibility, as there are only, 6 vowels unseen to Joey out of 27 tiles. So a 3 consonant draw, very likely, and he will pull it here.
He does pull it. One of the things about this play, though, is that his best lane was already beneath the E of I, and now he's opening up a new lane that's right beside that other lane. So it's a bit harder for him to hit because Josh can just try and obscure. Of course, anything Josh does to obscure could open up new lines, but if possible in these situations, and I didn't necessarily see anything better, but you do want to look to open up different sides of the board because it just lets Josh focus on his blocking efforts.
Josh's blocking efforts have been excellent so far this game, but perhaps he's a little frustrated that his blocking experts have also blocked him in, although this is a wonderful block here playing Rabbik. Rabbik taking no back hooks and that C impossible to overlap in NWL. So that's going to dice this board up. Joey now needing to bingo 2 or through that C or with an I in the 7th position to have any shot. And I don't see one out of this rack for Joey, so he'll need probably to open another line as quick as possible and probably need 2 bingos to catch back up in this game.
Yeah, and this is when you start counting, as he just did, a number of tiles in the bag to see if it's even possible for him to get 2 bingos down, if there's even enough tiles. The C is so valuable when you're ahead as a defensive tile, knowing that it doesn't take back hooks. And that's one of the things I love about this NWL dictionary, having these tiles that have different sort of attributes to them. As Joey continues to play sort of the equity game, he scores nicely here, But at some point, he's going to have to open a new lane because he's basically down just to through that C, or I guess ending in an O above patina. It's really getting dicey here.
Yeah, I think Joey in that situation likely needs to burn one of his vowels and play through the N and aniline, set up pan or pin. He doesn't again have that S, but he needs to pray for it in that situation. And I don't think I like that he played two vowels there. Again, vowels at a super premium in this game, especially from Joey's perspective. Maybe we want to hold on to one. Maybe we want to try to get this board more open. But Joey taking points here, and with a bad rack from Josh and a bingo from Joey, perhaps he'll be able to catch up with just one bingo after a high scoring play of Gay, while Josh forewent points last turn.
Yeah, I think Joey's had a bit of trouble seeing that spot between the P and the N of patina and a knight, just because players do get blank blindness. When the blank is there, you don't see it as clearly as a spot you can use. And whether it was playing longer, the chat was suggesting tie pin, whether it was just that moan turn. There was a few different options where if he had seen to play there, he could have set up himself for that key S up, which he hasn't drawn. We've now seen Josh drawn one of the S's. Josh is in a very commanding position, and he's going to take a bit more time here just to try and figure out how he wants to approach this.
Yeah, if I'm Josh, I think the last thing I need to do is block that floating C. And I need to play only consonants this turn. Joey's last few turns kind of imply to me he's been vowel trouble, that he's in bingo range. And so looking at that unseen pool, there are 5 vowels. I expect probably 3 of them already are on Joey's rack. That means there's only 2 left for me to draw all game. I cannot get caught with 7 consonants and get caught with my pants down as Joey opens this board up. We know he's going to at some point. I've got to keep my rack flexible. I like playing LIN through the I in Rabbik. It is only 8 points, but we've got to hold on to the vowels if at all possible. And GAEN, already a past tense of a word, does not take any hooks. So that will completely eliminate, I guess bingo's down to the C still possible, but largely eliminate the bingo possibilities on the right side of the board for Joey.
I think it would pretty much get rid of bingo's. Oh, I guess ending in IC, yeah. But what about null? And then he drops both of his L's. That also works to obstruct the I and the C lane there.
The problem with a play like null is Joey will be able
Above.
to play a 5 on top and
Right.
open the board back up. So I'd prefer not to give him that possibility. A high scoring play to open the board. I'm also worried about a play like exist afterward.
Yeah, the X.
So with that X unseen, I don't think you can do that here. I prefer keeping things tight and closed. I like LIN or a similar play to that.
I totally agree with you too. Right after I said it and you started saying what the problem was, I saw it right away. I'm seeing there's 16 tiles left unseen, 7 are on the opponent's rack, which means there are 9 in the bag. How many tiles would you be looking to play on this turn if you were sort of thinking about tempo going towards the endgame?
Honestly, I'm not thinking about tempo here. Tempo, trying to go out first is important in tight games, but this game is not tight, and I'm worried less about tempo and more about don't let Joey bingo on me.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And because Joey has not been opening new lanes, Josh really only has to sort of address that one spot. I like your suggestion for hanging on to the vowels. That makes a lot of sense. If he were to play a bit longer, he for sure has to keep at least one E, but the worst case scenario for Josh here, and when you're ahead by this much, that's what you really want to focus on is worst case scenario. How could I possibly lose? And that would be something like playing off a bunch of tiles and drawing both Vs, maybe a couple Rs, a couple Ns, really duplicating things. So I like the idea to play shorter here. The play of Lin, while it could leave bingo's ending in an IC, I think Josh would still be in a pretty good position holding that S, couple E's in this pool.
Yeah, worst case scenario, definitely what we're thinking about. I'm looking at possible bingos Joey could have. The worst case scenarios would be a bingo to the C using the X, things like non-toxic or anorexic. LIN will not block those plays. But with the letters Josh has, it's hard to block those plays unless you're going to play off all of your vowels. I wouldn't be surprised to see a much longer play, something like elect or even select, come down through that C. It's going to score well enough that should Joey hit a fluke bingo, you'll still win the game. Josh going to do something similar here. He's going to play tells. I like this. Hold on to at least one vowel, stay flexible, and score enough that, hey, even if Joey bingo's down to that C, you're going to be in okay shape. Josh needs to avoid a VVX draw with two more consonants. Again, worst case scenario. But picking up even one vowel would be helpful for him. Dodging one or both of the V's would be great. And he has dodged one V, though he has pulled 5 consonants, as I thought. A little bit of flexibility still, as he did retain one of his vowels.
Yeah, that's where I had first looked, was to play tells. That was my very first thought. It makes a lot of sense. It puts him up a lot, whereas if a 75-point bingo comes down, and that's approximately what I think a bingo here from Joey could hit, Josh would still be in a pretty good position to outrun, but thankfully for him, he didn't draw 2 Vs. Then he would really be in trouble. This board is not very friendly to Vs or Xs, as far as I can tell on a first glance. So we'll see how he's able to navigate that if Joey is able to manage to get a bingo down.
And Joey's reluctance to open this board means Josh now, with VIN through the I in Rabbit, will completely slam this one shut unless Joey opens a second lane here. We've seen all game he hasn't done it, but it is crunch time now. One interesting consideration, maybe Joey can play ROT to the T in Patinud. ROT only has a T as a front hook with the unseen pool. This is a similar play. ROLL is going to set up his T. He's got the final one, leaving one in the bag for Josh. And maybe Joey, if he can catch Josh with no vowels, Josh will be unable to block.
That was a phenomenal play by Joey. Sets up his T, left TIER, which is going to help him bingo both to the C, assuming I haven't actually checked to see if there was to the C, but likely. And definitely from troll plays, right? And because there's only one in the bag, that makes it very difficult for Josh to block, because if he plays any tiles, the bag's going to be emptied. And if Joey manages to bingo out, then he would get all the points on Josh's rack too. And we know Josh is holding quite a lot of points. So Josh can now just do some very basic math and see if just Vox could outrun any bingos. If there are bingos, the first thing, of course, would be to look to see if any bingos fit. I see Veritrin through the R. That's the only one I'm seeing.
So 3 bingos exist for Joey here. 3 bingos exist. Yeah, 2 using the C and Rabbit. One would be the devastating Veronica for 86. And Josh may not be able to outrun that bingo. I think Vex or Vox will narrowly do it. Anoretic also plays to the C. Veronica 86, Anoretic 72, and Veritrin, the one that Joey has drawn, is the only opportunity on the top part of the board. There are no 7s that will play hooking troll, only 3 bingos, and Josh definitely going to use his clock, figure out what those options are. Though if you're worried about blocking a bingo, the C is actually more dangerous here. However, Veronica, if I'm Joey, can't be in the cards. Joey just set up a T. Veronica would be using all 7 of the tiles that are not T. So I have to think maybe Veronica not a threat. Joey set up the T. He's got the T. That's the one inference I can make. So Anoretic and Veritrin may be the only bingos I'm concerned about. Does Vox outrun Anoretic? Does Vox outrun Veronica? Does Vex outrun those plays? Josh has a lot to think about here, but I think he can make that inference that Joey retaining a T after roll means Veronica not on the cards.
I think he can say it's more likely than not he has the T, but I don't think he can say it for sure. As I was saying earlier, sometimes you have to set up lanes you don't have when you're behind and just hope that you draw that tile because it's the only path you can see to victory. So he's going to want to do a lot of math here. First of all, Vox 4, 5, 13 scores 26, and then he'd be holding 10 on his rack. So he would gain 16 more points. So that would put him up 100 points. So as far as I can tell, that outruns any bingo. So I think Vox, unless my math is wrong, is a clear win. And after I had done that math 2 or 3 times, because I don't trust my math so much, I would probably just plop down Vox. Spread doesn't really matter in this best of 5. I guess if there was a tie, it would, but generally it wouldn't. So that looks like a winning play to me. And anytime you can find a play that wins 100% of the time, you have to feel really comfortable.
Yeah, yes. And spread barely a consideration. Again, a best of 5, you expect one player to go 3-2 or 3-1 to win. Ties are possible in Scrabble. They happen approximately 1% of the time. And 2.5 and 2.5, I imagine spread would be the tiebreaker. But point spread, not nearly as big a concern as just trying to get 100% win, given this is a best of 5 format.
And the chat points out vexed instead of vox. It just plays off one more tile, allows you to score 2 more points. It would make you a bit more inflexible getting rid of your vowel if you get another turn, if Joey doesn't have those anaretic or the other bingo you had identified. But regardless, all these plays are going to win 100% of the time just because we had taken the time to do the math. So players who aren't familiar with Tournament Scrabble, how the sort of math calculations we were doing, I was basically adding up how many points his candidate play at Vox would score, and then I was subtracting the points left on his rack, because if his opponent were to bingo out, empty the bag, then everything on his rack would have to be subtracted times 2. And what I forgot in the calculation was he would also draw the O out of the bag. So it would be 98 points that Joey's bingo would have to score to tie.
Yeah, all of that correct. Josh with numerous 100% wins though. Vex, Vox, even a play like Venom blocking Veronica will actually outrun bingos like Veritrin atop. So Josh definitely going to win this game. We will try to bring post-game banter, get our live mic from over the board going. I don't know with the stakes that these players are willing to do a post-mortem or if they need to just walk around. Joey, I'm sure, with a lot to shake off in this game as he was out bingoed 3-0 or perhaps 3-1, pending Josh's next play. But we'll certainly try. I'm also not sure how much time these players are going to want to take between games. As Josh putting down Versin here. So he is blocking the Veronica anaretic plays. This is one of many plays that wins 100% of the times, although in this iteration will give up the bingo at the top of Veritrin. Veritrin not going to win the game for Joey, but will make things close and respectable.
Yeah, he saw there was 2 bingos to the C, 1 through the R, and so he decided to block this lane. It didn't work out for him, but he still was able to handle this bingo here and still hang on to his lead. So Josh will have to draw that last tile out of the bag just to give the points directly to Joey. He'll shrug it off. Congrats. He's going to challenge. Okay, Veritrin, I think it's a type of dye or it's something chemical related. I looked it up somewhat recently, interestingly enough.
A poisonous mixture of alkaloid, so it will come back acceptable. Oh, Josh's clock is running. That should have been stopped. Joey also should not have pressed it. Josh will win by 11 after this play. I don't know what's going to happen director-wise with this clock penalty, but Josh to win by 11 before any overtime penalty. I don't know if the clock runs down to a minute or more if Josh actually loses this game. But
well, I mean, now it's over because they flipped the tiles up on the board, and we had announced that yesterday on stream that once the tiles have been placed up, that ends the game. I think that would supersede the clock. I don't think
let's cut to the overhead mic real quick and hear what these players have to say.
Ahead.
Yeah, was the X the last letter? No, the O. So Veronica and Anaretic are likelier. And Veronica's pretty substantial, but I mean, maybe, I don't know. I think it's still better for spread to do this. I don't know. Maybe just vexed. Yeah, I don't think anything fits on top. Like, unless I just flat out missed a 7 with this, but I looked very, very hard. And I've done that before. I didn't see Veritrin. I only saw interior.
I was hoping you had both of these, maybe. The first 2 letters I saw were, well, I had retina for my first 6 letters, and then the V was the 7th letter, so.
Okay. Yeah, I misplayed that.
Probably.
So, with this opening rack...
I assume Versin's good.
Yeah. With this opening rack, I could maybe exchange.
Huh.
That's maybe what Kenji would do. But I don't think it ever makes
I'm
sense.
glad you didn't, because I had QU with Knight, so.
Oh, nice. I don't think it really makes sense though, because it gives you a free turn to do whatever. I don't know. It's interesting. And opening with a double blank bingo is always intimidating.
Yeah, right.
First tile I saw was the blank.
Yeah.
Pretty ridiculous.
I don't know what I would have done. I would have had to play Thunk, saving GQ.
That's crazy. I was drawing the U's. I only drew play from the U that I saw here. I could have played oblique and try to maybe bait the R. The DNS hook.
Be like her only.
Yeah, you know. I wasn't going to get away with
wouldn't
that.
try.
Maybe against some other players. But yeah, it was just way too ridiculous. And this worked out super well. I don't know. Yeah, I probably misplayed that. Like leaving this open, letting you. But I had enough release. Those games were so weird.
Guess we don't have a scorecard for this, do we?
No, but I can.
No, it doesn't matter.
We can just split up.
So I think we'll cut the overhead mic now, as it seems like most of the banter done here. Josh again lamenting whether he should have blocked Veritran or Veronica Anoretic. You hear him talking about all of it. I expect